Chapter 1. Lilith. 2:00 a.m. After the little I've written, I now sit here, unsure of where to continue. My only companions are the cigarettes I slowly burn, the glass of malt whiskey, the sound of the ocean waves, of which I can only distinguish the reflection of the moon on the foam through the window, and this insomnia and soul discomfort. I feel uneasy within myself, with an absolute desire to write, a desire to let my fingers run on the keys of this typewriter, but I don't, because it seems I have nothing to say except disjointed ideas. Perhaps I should try to do just that, let my fingers run. Piog erpiheu gap bipiwegi alpisi gatato igru gapai fire your piegvi. No, it's not a good idea, even though it mirrors how I feel, but whoever reads needs words, connections, understanding, not this futile exercise that leads nowhere. I am alone, I feel alone, and perhaps it is this loneliness that leads me to make no sense except to myself, but more importantly, not needing to make sense except to myself, more than just alone. I feel depressed. And I believe that's the main problem. Maybe the idea of isolation wasn't as good as it seemed. There's a knock on the door. It's 2:30 in the morning, in an almost deserted place where no one comes without a purpose, and someone knocks on my door. I am startled and fearful. I go to the door to see who it is. It would be futile to pretend no one's here when the lights are on, and they're probably the only visible lights for miles. Fear of what it might be overwhelms me. I peek outside, a woman, seemingly alone. I open the door just slightly. Yes, I inquire.
Hello, Miguel.
Her voice reached me, and the only comparison I can find for what I felt at the time is like drinking honey so sweet, yet so gentle that it doesn't satisfy. Immediately, I felt I wanted to keep listening to her, not wanting to stop hearing her, as if her voice alone gave meaning to something in me. I felt touched, almost moved without being able to understand why. I'm sorry. Do we know each other?
Not in the way you ask, but in a certain way, yes.
I remained static, with the door slightly ajar.
Aren't you going to invite me in?
My hesitation was like my silence evident. She let out a small laugh.
Miguel, you can relax. I'm not here to rob you, to steal organs while you sleep, or to harm you in any way, and I am completely alone. So, will you let me in?
I opened the door for her, without saying a single word. She entered, took off the coat that covered her, and hung it on the coat rack, without even looking at it, as if it were an absolutely familiar gesture of someone who knew the house well. She was the woman I had seen on the beach this afternoon. Undoubtedly, seeing her now, here up close, left me disturbed. She was tall, and there's no other word to describe her, but perfect. Her black hair cascaded down with a slight wave to the middle of her back, contrasting with the deepest blue eyes I had ever seen, so intense that they seemed to sparkle. The tanned skin further enhanced them. The light clothes draped over her body neither dimmed nor accentuated it, but it wasn't necessary either. Her body had the exact proportions, a balance and harmony like I had never seen before, and her face resembled the statues of Venus and Aphrodite, timeless, classic beauty, gentle yet striking, with the strength that same gentleness held. Everything about her seemed to radiate something beyond my comprehension. She walked to the living room with such elegance that it didn't seem like walking, but rather floating, as if her body had no weight. She sat on the couch and watched me as I followed her, and even sat in front of her. I remained silent, unsure of what to say, overwhelmed by her presence.
You know, Miguel, I'm here to help you.
She paused, letting me absorb her words and letting all the questions come to my mind to answer them before I had a chance to formulate them.
Of course, you understand that, as in any human relationship, nothing is without interest, no matter how altruistic it may be. I have my reasons, which you'll understand later. Nevertheless, despite them, I'll help you, I'll give you the story about which you're so desperate to write. In fact, just the simple fact of seeing me this afternoon on the beach already made you start writing something, didn't it?
I nodded.
Well, but by now you must be curious about who I am, right?
I nodded again.
Well, Miguel, my name is Lilith.